All right, good morning from Da Nang. It's raining, horrible weather. Actually, this did not happen too much. It's around May now, so it's pretty dry this season. But yeah, I'm about to leave to Hoi An, and I thought this is a good moment to kind of reflect the 2 weeks that I had in the city. So, um, if you plan to come here as an expat or a digital nomad and you're wondering whether Da Nang is a good city, then I can assure you it's probably one of the best choices in Southeast Asia that I've seen so far. Um, but there's some things that you need to consider when coming here that people are not really talking about because they just want to sell you their stupid digital nomad courses, and they're just trying to, like, create it, paint it as this like pink magic bowl. But there are some things that we need to look at if we want to look at it truthfully. So I mean, the major factor is that Da Nang is super cheap. You can live here off 500-600 euros a month, and you can live very, very luxury on about 800 to 1,000 euros a month. You're almost rich in Vietnam in general, but especially in Da Nang. So when it comes to living expenses, it's pretty much an unbeatable city. It's so cheap, it's almost ridiculous. Every time I look at my bank account in general in Vietnam, it's just a positive surprise. And I didn't have that, to be honest, in too many countries, but it's pretty nice. So while the other positive thing, speaking for Da Nang, is of course you have an incredible beach just for yourself. There's not a lot of people. You can do workouts there, everything for free. You can get some sun and can get tanned, and yeah, you can even find apartments pretty much at the beach, directly at the beach, that are relatively cheap, and that's a pretty cool combination. On top of that, you have like cafes and digital nomad workplaces all around the city, so that's not something you need to worry about at all, because you're just gonna have an overflow of that. That's something I was worried about when I came here. Is there like a real community and whatever? Yes, there is. Yes, there is a real community, but it's not as big as like in Chiang Mai or other cities like that. So there's something you need to consider, like that it's not like Chiang Mai or Bali when it comes to communities. So it's gonna be like a little bit lonelier in general. Like you don't have as many like social contacts, but it's definitely not bad. Like there's a lot of people, and there's enough social connections that you can take when you're here. So of course, the nice thing about Vietnam is also that it's very safe. That you can walk around pretty much any time, day or night, and I doubt that you're ever gonna run into issues. And this is even the case despite the fact that there's pretty much no police here. It's super safe despite the fact there's no police. That's something really cool. You have like markets where you can buy fresh meat, fresh fish, even though sometimes you gotta be careful with those. I didn't always have good experience. I never got like food poisoning from the markets, but I think it was close sometimes. Like if I wouldn't have like thrown away that meat, I think it would have been maybe resulted in a food poisoning. So yeah, this is all like the positive stuff about Da Nang, of course. But as in general in Southeast Asia, people hide kind of the negative sides. So the negative side about Vietnam in general is that Vietnam is a communist one-party state. And yes, that is going to affect you. People will just be shut up. Yeah, just don't talk about it. Yes, if you're a fucking bitch and you censor yourself based on where you are, then you're not gonna run into issues. But if you have at least some personalities, some character, and you stand by your values, even if you're in Vietnam, then you might have issues with that. That's just the simple truth. And even if you don't talk about the political situation in Vietnam, you have to realize that people live in constant fear. of saying something wrong. They live in reality denial. If you talk to them about politics, that will be just like, oh yeah, we don't think about that, we don't talk about that. And that's just a super weird climate to be in. So yeah, that's just weird. And people think about like moving to Vietnam and living here. It's like, sure, yeah, you can do that, but you will live in a communist one-party state that has one of the worst freedom of speech indexes in the world. And you know what's really scaring me is that people don't care. They're like, yeah, yeah, we just don't talk about it. Even the foreigners who move here. So they're willing to give up their freedom in a heartbeat. And when I look at Europe and the things that are going on there, it's it's pretty much not surprising to me. Like, most people don't care if they live in a fucking communist authoritarian state. They would just give up their personal freedom to live in a country cheaply. Yeah, in Germany we have the saying, "Whose bread I eat, those his song I sing." And this is the case. People just want to the cheap living expenses of Southeast Asia, and they're willing to shut up and give their whole so-called liberal personality away for for having the cheap living expenses in Vietnam. So far, I had no issues with that whatsoever. But again, you definitely know, once you talk to Vietnamese people, that influences the culture, and you will run into that if you're in Vietnam long term. So that's why I'm probably going to leave in next week. I don't want to live in a socialist one-party state, even if the government does not pursue actions against me. I'm just not feeling comfortable knowing that they put people in prison every week for journalist activities. Um, okay, let's get back to the positives. Food in Da Nang is ridiculous good. Like, in general in Vietnam, you can get amazing food everywhere, super cheap. You can get a full soup for €1. You can get banh mi for 50 cents to €1. So dollar is about the same, if you're wondering about that. So you can get cheap seafood, fucking king crabs, tiger, shrimp, lobster. There's this night market here where I went with a girl yesterday on a date. And yeah, you can get pretty much everything you want in Da Nang. When it comes to Vietnamese food, it's amazing. Personally, I don't feel too connected to the Asian culture, to be honest. I do feel like it's more difficult to relate to locals here than in South America, for example. But the girls are much more classy. Like, if you care about dating, for example, you're one of those folks like me. The Vietnamese girls are really, really hot. They're if you're into Asian women, they're funny enough. They're a lot of times pretty like light skin, pretty white skin. Even look like this Chinese type woman, and they're just insanely attractive. They're much more classy than, let's say, women in South America. Yeah, in South America, some women can be a bit trashy, a bit antisocial, depending, where you look. But in Asia, in general, people are like really humble. They're really, yeah, classy. They're really like orderly. Not like in Latin America, which is pretty much the opposite. So some people prefer that. I can totally understand. But Vietnam is not going to hold me long term, mainly because of the political situation. But it's also really hot in Da Nang. And yeah, of course, the majority of the time, you're going to have like a AC. So it's not going to bother you too much. But if you exit the apartment anytime, you're going to have that heat in your face again and again. So I've been living in tropical places for a while, and people always say, "Oh my God, you live at the beach." It's like, yeah, but it's also fucking hot. It's sandy, and after 2 to 3 weeks, you really get bored of living at the beach, and you might want to live in a place where you're more comfortable with the climate and all of that. So this digital nomad life, expat life, is definitely totally overglorified, and people just give you this fucking fantasy pink world of, oh my God, it's so nice, I'm living at the beach. But once you do that, it might not be as fun and as exciting for as long as you might think. So that's just the honest truth about this. Apart from that, yeah, give it out a shot. I think in the end you need to make your own mind. Some people love it, some people probably don't like it. Most people who are into this digital nomads life, I think they want to live cheaply on a really budget lifestyle. I want to live cheaply on a really high lifestyle. And if that's your motivation, then Da Nang is really probably the best place to be. Even though prices are going up, there's lots of digital nomads now. And hope you enjoyed the video. Start following me for more content from Southeast Asia.